I had my children on the floor. I was on my favourite blanket that my grandmother gave me on the floor like a cat.
And I realised in that moment the potential of what our bodies can really do as women.
Like I could feel his head, I could do my own internal, like, yeah, his head, I could feel it.
I was in tears, I was just in tears and overwhelmed with gratitude.
Hi, and welcome to the Natural Birth Podcast, the podcast that is bringing embodied birth wisdom from women from all over the world, sharing their natural birth stories. Don't forget to subscribe and download so that you can always have access to these empowering and positive natural birth stories. Hi, my name is Anna, and I am the Natural Birth Podcast host. I'm a former midwife who left the system, and I'm now the proud founder of Sacred Birth International, a woman-owned company with a mission to revolutionize the birth world and bring focus to the sacred and the natural intelligence of the birth process. We do this by providing world-class education, courses, programs, and coaching to equip women with the knowledge and the tools to have conscious pregnancies, empowering and positive birth experiences, and the most nourishing start possible for themselves and their babies postpartum. We also educate and mentor aspiring birth workers into sacred space holders and physiological birth advocates in the Sacred Birth Worker Mentorship, the Beyond a Doula training. If you'd like to work with me or take any of our courses, programs, or the mentorship, then head on over to sacredbirthinternational.com to find out more. Natural Birth Podcast, how are you?
Hi, Anna. I'm so good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm just honored to share this space with you and talk about one of my favorite things ever.
Beautiful. Me too. Good to have you here early in the morning. So I'm really curious about how you went from having a hospital birth with your first and then having your beautiful home birth just about 3 months ago now, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Because of the journey.
It's quite a journey. I'd love to talk about, both experiences with my first. He's now 4. It was 2020, so it was during COVID times. There's a lot going on, and I believe at the time I could only have my husband in the room with me, and I really wanted my mother in the room with me. Women, being comfortable with the fact that women had done this before and men have not. I really vouched to have my mom in there. In fact, I went online and I printed a doula certification and I just had her sign it and sneak into the hospital with me. And I just needed her there with me.
Love that. Break the rules first.
I broke the rules. And I'm so grateful I was able to have her there. But it was quite a different experience. I remember in the beginning when I was pregnant with him and learning about birth, I did a lot of research. I had actually written out 4 different birth plans in case one thing led to another. How would I want this to go? And I did a lot of research. And I remember at one moment, like it was like a random moment. I was upstairs and I just saw my mom's bath. And I just envisioned like women surrounding me, almost like in women's circle and supporting me through a natural unmedicated birth. And I knew I wanted that. But I think that being that it was my first baby, I wanted to feel safe. And I think my husband was like, we should probably do a hospital birth, and you can still get what you want from the hospital, have the experience that you want. So that's why I had done all the research and I had written out my birth story or my birth plan in 4 different ways, because I was like, you know what, no matter what happens, I want to feel empowered.
I love
Um, yeah, but I did want an unmedicated birth. Um, the problem was I had an OB who had told me that, likely due to the size of my baby, I would have to have a
Oh,
C-section.
what?
I know. And being so just new to the whole thing, I believed him, and you want to believe that your care provider has your best interests at heart. You want to believe that they're telling you the correct things. So it scared me. And I was, yes, I was 37 weeks pregnant, and I just decided, you know what? I'm going to go hike. I'm going to go do all of the things to start my labor, so that I can have this baby right now, because technically we're 37 weeks. He's full term. He's ready to go. Like, that was my thinking. So I did. I hiked a mountain, and I induced my labor. It worked. And looking back, I would have changed so many things about the situation, but I got to the hospital. I was only about 2 centimeters dilated,
Mm,
and they said, well, because your water had broke, you're going to stay here.
right.
So I was there. The first 24 hours went by, not a whole lot um, of progression. And they said, you know what, let's start you on Pitocin. And I really didn't
Yeah.
understand what Pitocin was. And I think I was just kind of deep in a process where I wish I would have had a midwife
Yeah.
there to kind of vouch for me. I had written down I would not like the Pitocin, but I
Yeah.
think when push came to shove, I'm in their playground. As soon as you go to the hospital, you are in their playground. And so I took the Pitocin, and I labored for 36 hours.
Mm,
And I was having these contractions that were synthetic,
yeah.
that made the experience pretty unbearable.
Yeah.
And I had, a lot of pressure, I think, from just the hospital, as to, like, you need to have this baby soon because of the water breaking. And I had so many things strapped up to me. I had my IV, I had internal monitors inserted up inside of me, the one around my belly. It was just so uncomfortable. And I do remember, like, getting to the point where I was laboring naturally at hour 36 and unmedicated. And they came in and they said, you need to hold still and lie down on your side, and you need to strap this oxygen mask to you. And I was
Did
like,
you want?
ain't no way. Ain't no way. I was, deep in my, on my all fours, basically just like kind of getting guttural, growling into a towel, just like
Mm,
really primal. And I didn't feel that, like, laying down on my side was possible with what I was feeling. And I think I just felt at that moment a little disempowered. And um, I felt like if I continued to do it my way, that it was possible I was going to have a C-section. So at that moment, I decided to take the epidural. And that was at hour 36. And I will say, getting that shot in my back was just like the most glorious feeling compared to what I was feeling. So it took probably, a half an hour to really settle into my body.
yeah.
And I finally had actually closed my eyes to get some rest. And my nurse came over and checked me, and she said, okay, you're ready to push.
Are you
And I
kidding?
started.
Did they check you before they gave you the epidural where you were at?
Yes,
You
they did check
remember?
me. I was only about 6 centimeters dilated.
Right. And so the
Um,
epidural made you relax and open. And that's the
exact.
thing, I'm curious, when you induced yourself with that big walk, Was that the waters broke, or did you actually get a contractions as well?
No, that's when the water broke.
Right. So did you
Yeah.
not have contractions? It was just the water
I,
breaking?
I was having contractions, but
Mm.
I wouldn't say they were, they were probably like 5 minutes apart, but they seemed pretty mild. They
Yeah.
didn't really get like progressively more intense.
Mm.
They kind of felt like just very strong Braxton Hicks.
Yeah, yeah.
So, we went home. I kind of was like minding my own business, eating a salad, just like did do. My husband was like, "We're going to the hospital. We're going, we're going." And I was like, "Oh, bless his heart. He was just
Bless
trying to
his
do."
heart. Of course, that's the thing. Like, I mean, like most people, you don't know until you go through the system how it
Right,
works and that, everyone tells you stay out as long as possible. I mean, preferably don't go at all, right? But if you're
right.
gonna have a hospital birth, don't go too early because this is what happens, right? Is that you
Yes.
probably are not really in labor. And just because you broke your waters doesn't mean that. So your risk of infection as a
Mhm.
mother increases. Still a very low percentage. We're not talking like 50% chance every hour, you know what I mean? Like it's very minuscule. Yours increases by the day. Babies doesn't. And I really want everyone to hear this because this is something that they pull a lot when your waters break, is that you need to get on the antibiotics, you need to start your labor, you need to have a baby within 24 hours, rah,
Yes.
rah, because the baby might die. Or maybe,
That's what I was
and
told.
that's not true. It's actually totally not true. It's your risk of infection. So, like uterine infection, your risk
Mhm.
increases. The baby's the same, whether it's 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. And so, I mean, I assisted a few women that have chosen to stay at home if they're going to have hospital birth for up to 4 days. There's actually a woman here on the podcast who did that, who shared her story after her birth. And I think it's just important for everyone to know that.
Beautiful.
That you don't have to go in and be monitored and get induced and all of this from the get-go, and that there's other
There's
ways of preventing infection and obviously just being vigilant, feeling and knowing your body and keeping clean and so on and so forth, right?
absolutely. Oh, there's so many things that I've learned after this experience that they tell you that, that isn't always true. I have loved following your podcast and your Instagram because I'm watching, breached babies at home being birthed, all sorts of situations that they tell you you cannot do, that are not possible, you shouldn't do. Um,
Mm.
and that's kind of what happened after this birth experience. I just needed a radically different shift. I needed a radically different experience. I wanted to reclaim my birthing experience, and I'm amazed with what I was able to find within myself throughout this new experience. Um, but yeah, I'm still so grateful. My son is here
Mm.
with us. He was safe. It was great, but
And at the end, you birthed him vaginally.
I did. I birthed him vaginally.
And
It was
how big was he? What did he weigh?
6 pounds 12 ounces.
You're
Just
kidding.
absolutely so doable. And I know.
This is the
I
thing,
actually,
the whole thing about weight, it is so not like something you can diagnose on an ultrasound. And it's the many times they are wrong.
yeah,
It's so bloody often that I hear
yeah,
the story, right? So, and you know what? Yes, if your baby's like 6 kilos when it comes out, we can talk about a big baby coming out and maybe or maybe
sure,
not that will be birthed, right? I mean,
sure.
that's what babies being born 6 kilos vaginally. Bit
Mhm.
tight, bit tight. You talk about a big baby then. But 4 kilos, 5 kilos, big babies, but doable, fully doable. Like you usually your body will
Absolutely.
not create a baby. You
That you
cannot
cannot
birth.
pass.
If you don't have like uncontrolled diabetes, we're talking about something
Yeah,
different then, aren't we? Like,
yeah, yeah,
but if you're a normal, healthy woman, like usually you don't grow a baby, you can't birth.
exactly, exactly. That was something I learned afterwards. And upon finding my midwife, I had asked her because she had her last baby was 9 pounds 5 ounces,
Mm.
and she was my height and my size, and I was like, perfect.
Yes.
Is exactly what I want to hear.
Mhm.
So yeah, I had him vaginally. What's crazy, the nurse came over. She's like, okay, let's just do some practice pushing. And I was like, okay. So I pushed twice and she was like, oh, you're going to have to stop pushing because he's coming out, and your doctors aren't here. So I waited 27 minutes
Oh my God. That is
and
so
my
unsafe.
husband was going crazy. I waited 27 minutes before they walked in. And then I pushed two more times and he was out. I had 16 stitches. And I just think that this experience was the way that it was because one, I believed them. I didn't ask questions. Um, Two, I forced my baby out. He was not ready, although he was full term in this Western society that we deem full term, right? In America, 37 weeks full term.
Mm.
Um, he was hungry and he came out and he needed to be fed often and a lot. And it is such a difference between him and my daughter, um, because he was just so hungry. I think it made postpartum very difficult on me. And I think I just kind of felt disempowered, although very happy that my son was here.
Mm.
I think that, if I had stayed home, if I had um, maybe just trusted the vision that I had in the beginning of having him in my mother's bathtub, even that things would have turned out differently. But ultimately, I decided to take these things,
Mm.
and learn from them and apply them to my next birth. So,
Beautiful. So when you became pregnant again, do you know already then it was going to be a home birth or?
I knew that's what I wanted. So this is really fun. I was so random. I was doing the dishes in my house and I wasn't pregnant yet, but I got this vision of me bringing my daughter here through water. And I knew that a water birth was what I wanted and what she was asking me for. And something told me, and I don't know, but something told me that if I brought her through water, that she would have an easier time remembering where she comes from and who she is.
Mm.
So I decided that whenever I was going to be pregnant, that's what I was going to do. And I think about 2 months later, I called my mom to tell her happy birthday.
Mm.
And she goes, so you're calling to tell me that you're pregnant? I said, no. And I said, there's a lot of people in my life that want to be pregnant right now. And I'm not looking to be pregnant right now. So go put your pregnancy juju somewhere else. It's not the plan. And she goes, okay. I go, why would you say that? She goes, because I was in meditation this morning and just had this feeling that you were going to call me today and tell me that you were pregnant. And I was like, no, mom. Okay, love you, bye. It was like such a weird phone call. And I remember not thinking twice about it, just like going on about my day. And then next morning I woke up, I came downstairs, I opened up my fridge, and I had almost thrown up because something in there smelled terribly off. And immediately I closed the fridge and I go, what would be funny is if I'm freaking pregnant right now. So I went upstairs, I took a test, and sure enough, I was pregnant. And I took two more tests because I never believed the first one. And they all came out pregnant. And I just couldn't believe how my mom did that.
Wow.
Couldn't believe that I was pregnant.
Your mom.
Moms know.
Moms know. Wow, yeah, mamas know, don't they? So, did you call her back and tell her?
Yes. Yes, she was the first person. I called her back and showed her the pregnancy test, and we just laughed and then cried on the floor, both of us in our homes, just laughed and cried. And yeah, that was really exciting. I feel like I really got to know my baby girl while I was pregnant with her. I feel like her energy came to me, and it felt um, almost like an enhanced version of myself. I felt very calm and collected. I actually had the impression to shut out the rest of the world because there was a lot of crazy things going on, and I felt that for us, we needed to just pay attention to what was internally happening and develop that side of us rather than looking to the outside world and getting frustrated and scared, that was something that we didn't need. So um, I really loved so much. I loved being pregnant with her. It felt ethereal and almost like euphoric. Um, and it was soft, but she felt so fierce and like regal. Um, and I just knew that she was going to be so special to me. Um, so I really hung on to my vision of having her through the water.
Mm.
And um, yeah, I think that really helped me in the end manifest that experience because I kept going back to that vision and just like playing out in my head and just letting it be that. And sure enough, I ended up getting that. Um, but when I um, when I started asking around for midwives, I found the midwives that she had her baby at almost 10 pounds, which was incredible to me. And they had a very, she brought in another midwife, and they were absolutely just so wonderful. They had a very hands off approach and just really like power to the mama and whatever you need. They were incredible at being there for me with anything. And I feel like more emotionally um, than anything. And they had actually put in their contract, which I thought was interesting, that if you tried to self induce for this labor, that they might have to terminate the contract or pass you to a different care provider because they believed so much in not inducing labor. And me too. When I learned why, I was amazed. I was like, absolutely, this makes so much sense because you get all of those happy endorphins when baby decides that it is time, that they will release the oxytocin and the dopamine, and it'll help you birth the baby unmedicated much easier than for if you go in and you get induced or you induce yourself like I did last time.
Well, the beautiful thing is that your baby will send chemical messages that their lungs are ready. That's what they do. They send the chemical messages saying, hey, I'm ready. And that's what we believe initiates labor. And so that is why, you're really evicting your baby too early when you try to do it yourself, right? They will tell you. They know when they're ready. They really do.
They do. They're so, so, so smart. And I thought about, in the beginning, I was like, is this too radical for me? I was like outweighing the pros and cons. I was like, absolutely not. I believe that, if our astrology has anything to do with us, choosing certain attributes within ourselves to then come down at a certain point, the exact moment that we need to come down to like help us accomplish our life mission and do the things. If astrology has anything to do with that, then why would I force my baby out? I would let them come when they feel that they are intended to be here. I don't know, it made sense to me at the time. And so, yeah, I remember waiting and waiting and waiting. And even throughout my pregnancy, I had created my birth album, the songs that I wanted to birth her to. I actually created some of my own, and I feel like she had a big hand in helping me write those songs. So I would listen to those songs over and over again and just know that, you know, her time is coming. But of course, in this, again, this Western society, it's 37 weeks. Okay, now she's good anytime. Okay, now it's 40 weeks. Now it's the due date. She's due. And she's not coming out. And I have everybody coming to me asking me, when is the baby coming? Is the baby here yet? And it just added so much, I think, pressure. And my midwives were like, just turn that off, because there's no expiration date on baby. Baby will come here when she's intended to be here. And you know, you get so uncomfortable towards the end, but I just hung in there, and I was about 41 weeks and a day. And I went into active labor at night. I had contractions that would keep me up, and I would kind of like I'd have to like send noise through my body to kind of work through the contraction. And they were 5 minutes apart and all night long. And we let my midwives know, and they drove to me about an hour to me. And then 5 a.m. came around, and my circadian rhythm said, oh, the sun's coming up. Your cortisol levels are going to drop. Your melatonin levels are going to drop, and it's time for you to get up and go about your day. So my active labor had stopped. My midwives got there, and they said, if it picks back up, let us know. And 7 a.m. came around, and it didn't pick back up. And they said, totally fine. This is very normal. Likely what will happen is you will go to sleep tonight, or you will wind down. The moon will come up, and your body will say it is safe to birth now, and you will start and you will not stop. So I thought that was just the craziest thing ever. I'm like, okay, we really are just like animals, like ruled by the sun and the moon on Earth. It was so wild to me, and I had kind of the whole day to set things up and prep myself. So I made my postpartum food for about 3 days after I gave birth, which was nice. I set up the home space. And in fact, that night, the prior that I was laboring, my mom and my dad, I could hear them, bless their hearts, moving things around, moving the couch around, bringing in the birth pool, vacuuming everything, like 2 a.m, just like everything getting set up. And I thought they were so sweet for that. And then, yeah, I was ready as soon as, the sun went down, and it was about 10 p.m. and I felt the contractions come back. And about at 11 p.m., I had asked for one of my dearest friends to come join me. And this is where I called in my women's circle that I saw in my first vision of me giving birth, with my first that I didn't get to have. So I decided to call my friend Chanel in with me, and she is just so stunning and beautiful, and could hold the energy, the energetic space for me that I needed. And I remember being outside probably around 12:30, maybe 1 a.m. I labored in the grass for a long time. Something about the earth being beneath me and digging my feet and my hands into the grass is what I felt like I really wanted. My friend and my mother were outside working through my work fields. And my friend was able to, like, I don't know what it was, but she like pulled something in my energy field, and I literally felt the connection of the circuitry of where to send the energy through, up through the crown, down through the body, out the womb. And I had done a contraction with this circuitry, understood. And at that point, I just felt like I was ready to dive in and have that baby. I felt like I understood how to send the energy. And so I ended up going into the pool at that point. My midwife, I had labored in the house a little bit longer before that. My midwife had walked in while I was in a big contraction. I just remember her pushing my hips and then sending her hands down on top of my arms to the tops of my hands. And I think I had a cry of relief. I just said, oh, my midwives must be here. It was so soothing. It felt so wonderful. And yeah, sure enough, they were. And I ended up getting in the pool, and there were candles lit, there's little twinkly tea lights that could be under the water that were in my pool. And it's just such a cozy cave that I was able to just like kind of go into. And I had my music going, and I'm so grateful for my space. I feel like if you can make your space the way that you want it, you just feel safe. You just feel cozy. And I was in my cozy little cave, and I had my mother. I had my mother's best friend, who I considered to be like a second mom to me, there. I had Chanel, my friend, who was holding the energetic space for me there. I had my sister, who was a nurse and who was actually due 3 days after me. And she came in to be a part of that. And I, looking back at this experience, just so respect her for, maybe having a completely different approach and maybe different opinions about birth. But she came in and she supported me all the way through beautifully. And I really respect her for holding such a beautiful space for me to do something that maybe scared her. And I was very vocal, and that was, what was needed for me to send the pain, the intense feelings that I was feeling through and out my body. And it actually woke up my dad. So my dad came down, and he kind of just tucked himself into the corner of the room and anchored himself in there. And at times he would come and hold my hand and like whisper sweet messages and affirmations to me, and even cried with me. And I think that was one of my favorite parts about this birth, was that my dad was able to be there and hold space for me and be a part of that. And then, of course, my husband was there in the room with me. And, sometimes the less that our men do, the better. I remember, feeling his hands trying to give you counter pressure, or just laying a hand on my shoulder. And it was just intense. And I just let him know, like, okay, that's a little too intense. And at the end, I just said, you know what? I just need your eyes. Just give me your eyes. And as long as I had his eyes, I felt absolutely so safe. And I could feel his presence there with me. So I would break labor up into like 3 different waves. Truly, I would say the first wave, you're like excited and you can talk in between your contractions, and I'm looking around at the room and everybody there with me, and like, this is so cute and fun, and it's like a birthday party. I mean, it literally is my daughter's birthday party here. And then the second wave, you kind of start going into labor land, and you start to kind of drown out the extra outside things. And you really get into this incredible visceral space energetically where I don't have to open my eyes to see who is in the room with me. I can feel them. It's like a soul party. Like I can feel these people and I can feel what they are bringing to me in this moment. I can feel my father praying to God, anchoring in the space. I can feel my mother just holding my emotions, and my friend holding this big energetic like cap almost to let this be the experience that I want and kind of guide me through energetically what is happening. It's so insane, the mere fact that we go in between these worlds, and we go as women, we walk to the other side to grab our baby and bring them back with us. She was able to beautifully lead me through a meditation while I was laboring to go get my daughter and, kind of have this conversation with her that this might be intense, but this was going to be amazing, and to just trust the process. And I'm sure she did. It was more for myself. But and I'm going to walk through this, and then you're going to follow me out, but we're going to have to do this kind of on our own and together. And that was so beautiful. So anyway, I'm like kind of in this space of shutting the outside world out, feeling into energy only. And I remember feeling for her. My midwives, if I had asked them to check me, they would, but they never checked me. We had discussed beforehand why that really wasn't very important. And I just loved that was their stance on that. And while I was, laboring in the second wave, I kept seeing where her head was at and pulling my finger out and looking at the distance. And it really felt like for the longest time that she was in the same position. And I started to get frustrated. I started to get scared a little bit because I was feeling exhausted. The contractions were intense, and I didn't feel like she was making a lot of progress. So I kept checking and kept getting the same kind of result. And I remember thinking in my head, like, okay, Tia, just do this 100 more times, 100 more reps. And I think that installed this like, okay, go again. Okay, I can do it, go again. I can do it just one more time, that I needed this engine, right? So yeah, I kept on going and going. And something that my midwife said, she said, sometimes babies have a hard time getting underneath that pelvic bone. So I think that helped me click in my head that maybe I needed to try a different position. So I laid on my back instead, or not my back, I guess kind of sat down. I was like leaned back into my birth pool. And I just felt like I was able to tilt my pelvic bone up and help the baby progressively come out just a little bit more and more and more. And sure enough, while I'm, I'd call this the third wave of labor, where I am very loud, very vocal, unapologetically, guttural, and I sometimes just trying not to scream, but trying to just like not hold back either. And my midwife, I remember hearing her say, yes, Tia, that is it. Keep going with that deep guttural, like, I don't want to say scream because it's not what we need, but it is that guttural yell. And I just felt really encouraged to just be, in my very animalistic primal state with her saying that. So I was trying to bear down into something, and my legs are a little bit short. I'm a little bit petite. So I can't remember if it was my mother or my friend who suggested to have Tony, my husband, come in and just put his hands in the water and let me push up against his hands. And I will say, when you're in this space, when you're in water, especially the conduit of the energy that is held in that water was, of course, me in that birthing pool. As soon as he put his hands in the water, I could feel his energy in the water with me. And there was friction. And I don't know if anyone has ever felt that. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of women, when they are in labor, just feel that, that's why like touch is so sensitive to us in that moment. But I could feel the friction in the water. But at the end of the day, having him there for me to bear down into was still very helpful. So I was pushing, and this is about, I'm kind of approaching the ring of fire, and I'm having every harsh critic in my head come up, and all of the thoughts of like, what were you thinking? You're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. You're going to have to get transferred. You're not even going to make it through a transfer. This is what it is. And you're kind of looking around at everyone in the room and realizing that no one's going to do it for you. And that all of these beautiful people are here to support you. And, I think in hindsight, I knew I was going to be okay. But in that, I would say 45-minute span, I did not know if I was going to be okay. And I started to say out loud, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. And started to say, she can do it. You can do it. And I started talking to my baby, you can do it. You can do it. We can do this. We can do it. We can do it. And that is the only thing that I allowed myself to say out loud, even though I was having all of these internal crazy thoughts. I was like thinking about all of the women that have come before that have done this, and the women that are in huts doing it right now as we speak. And I said, I can do it. I can do it. And I remember it was such a beautiful moment. The song came on that I walked down the aisle to, and Tony, my husband, had his hands in the water, and I felt her crown and pushed her head out. And it was just such a stunning moment. And I was so relieved after her head came out. I was like, I'm relieved. I can do the rest of this, no problem. I think it took about 3 more contractions. Her head was underwater. They decided that maybe it was a good time to switch over to my knees, to open up my pelvic floor a bit more. And as soon as, I kid you not, the song that I made with her and her heartbeat came in the song, it was like she decided that that was her cue and that she wanted to come out right then and there. And so our song came on. I had a contraction. I pushed her head out. Her head was already out. Her shoulders out. And my husband caught her and then placed her on me. And we were just left to really bond and soak in this moment. Baby was underwater for 5 minutes and 5 minutes and 30 seconds. My midwives were gloved up. They were ready to go in case they needed to pull her out. But they had saw that she was making faces, that her color was good, that she was moving. I didn't anticipate. This is something I actually hadn't heard before. But after her head came out, I could feel her twisting her body to come out and to navigate. Babies are so smart. They can navigate their way out the birth canal. I didn't know that that was something I was going to experience. So that came as a kind of surprise to me. To feel that twist happening, I was like, what is going on? I have never felt anything like that before. And they're like, she's just getting herself in the best position to come out, which I just thought was incredible.
They themselves, it's amazing.
It's
They know exactly how to navigate your birth canal.
yes, it was incredible. It was incredible. It was a surprising feeling though. It was like, I explain it like if you caught a big fish and you were holding a big fish in your hands and they were like flopping inside of your hands. That's kind of what it felt like to have this like crazy, amazing, like I don't even know. It was wild. It was wild. But yeah, because I had said she's moving and they had seen her color, they had seen her face, they felt comfortable to let her be underwater. Of course, you know, my sister, being a nurse, is looking at a baby underwater, and my husband is looking at a baby underwater, and they're kind of like, but I think because my midwives just held such calm, like almost confidence.
Absolutely.
You know,
And the thing is, that baby's still getting oxygen through the umbilical cord and the placenta.
yes,
It's
yes,
fine.
it's fine.
And as you know, you just wait for the next contraction. Had you had
Yeah.
several contractions during those 5 minutes and the baby wasn't coming out, different. But you know, there can be a big pause between the head and the shoulders.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah, they were ready to go in case they needed to intervene, but their goal was to not intervene at all. And so we sat there in the pool for a long time and just held baby skin to skin and bonded for quite a while. And I remember the cord and the placenta throbbing inside of me, and it just felt like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to birth this placenta now. So I handed my baby to my husband, and I was in my pool, and I got up on one knee, and I took my finger and I wrapped it around my cord a little bit, and I just tugged to make sure I didn't feel that it was still attached to anything. And I pushed and on a contraction, and I pulled, and I just pulled my placenta out slowly. And I remember kind of like looking up, and my midwives were like kind of surprised looking at me pull and birth my own placenta out. They were like, oh, okay, you're just gonna do this now. That's great. That's great. Just make sure it's not attached. Like I guess that doesn't usually happen, but that's just what I was feeling, and I was
That was
able
your
to
instinct and impulse. Yeah.
exactly. I was just feeling, like I wanted to do that. So the placenta came out, and I think at that point I was so amazed, and I was so grateful. I had truly felt ancestors, and I felt God in the room with me, birthing this baby out. It is an outer worldly strength that it takes to bring a human here, and it should be. It absolutely should be. And I'm so grateful that I got to feel that. I get so emotional even just thinking about that moment and what it took for me to get her here, and the outer worldly strength that I received from from guides and my people in the room with me and my ancestors. So it was just such an incredible experience. And even throughout the pregnancy, I was told, because my platelet count was very low, that I would have to maybe think about having a hospital birth. I remember testing, it was 130 when I tested, which was low at the time. And then I tested again, and it was 106, which was even lower. I tested again, it was 98. And my midwives, they said, okay, we're going to have to think about maybe doing a hospital birth. The platelets are really low, which are the clotting factor if you bleed. We don't have the tools to help you from bleeding, from not bleeding out. So that is something that, we discussed beforehand. It was something that was on our radar. I went in, I did a lot of things on the nutrition side to help curb fat. It's like it's called the walking egg protocol. You eat an egg, you drink a cup of milk and salt every hour that you're awake for 3 days.
Sorry,
to
what's happening
generate.
again? You're doing what?
You eat an egg, a
Yeah.
cup of milk, and salt every hour that you are awake.
Oh my God. That's
It was so hard. It was so
God, how
for
many
3 days.
Holy
I didn't want to eat an egg like for the longest time. I didn't want to eat a lot of the things that I had to eat while I was pregnant. But being that the nutrition was really what I could control to ensure a healthy amazing birth and postpartum, I just trusted my midwives and I went in and I did the things.
Wow. And what happened?
So my test results came back to 106, which was an improvement, but it still was not where they wanted it to be. And I think I just I kept going and doing more things to generate platelets. I took one more test about a week before I gave birth, and it was 81, and I felt so discouraged. And I knew that we would have to have this conversation of going to the hospital and doing it there, but I just really felt like if God gave me the vision of me having my baby in the water, then I'm going to have my baby in the water. I'm going to trust that. And I remember sitting there talking with my midwives, and I showed them the test results. And this was something I didn't want to talk to my mom about, something I didn't want to talk to my husband about or my sister about. I just showed them the test results because I wanted them to know. And I said, it came back as 81, and they said, okay, what does your gut tell you? And I looked them in the eye, I said, I'm having this baby at home. And they said, great, we got your birth pool, we're gonna bring it in and help you set it up. And I said, okay. And I just love that their job was to really trust me, and that they did that.
Yeah. And that's the thing, at the end of the day, that is pure true midwifery care, because they will give you the risks and the benefits. They'll give you the evidence as far as we know it, because that's the ultimate science, right? Recommendation, rah about that, for example. But they give you all the evidence and the research and the pros and cons, and then it's up to you.
Yeah.
And then true midwifery care is to support a woman in declining things, in choosing outside of the guidelines, in choosing not to follow recommended advice. That is what a true midwife should do. Now, again, only the independent midwives can do this, and even so, when they do that, they're taking a big risk. Had you bled a lot and maybe had to transfer, they might get under scrutiny. They might lose their license. They might get, you know what I mean? Like, it's a witch hunt. So it's very brave of them, but I absolutely love that you really found amazing midwives.
True. I really, really, truly did. And they did inform me. They say, in that same conversation, you do realize what could happen. And I said, yep. And they said, okay.
Yeah.
And so much of birth is like us women just having to radically accept and take responsibility for any outcome.
Yeah.
And that is what makes birth so insane.
That's it. That is the truth. That is the truth. It is for us to claim. And what is safety for us is not the same as maybe what a doctor thinks, or a midwife, or society. And it needs to come from us. Like, what is safety for us?
Absolutely. These midwives are not certified through the state. So they run midwifery, but they are not certified midwives because they felt like being certified would limit what they were able to do.
True.
So I'm really grateful that I had them. They were absolutely stunning and perfect for me in every way. I bled less than half a cup.
See?
And they're like, we have never,
Mm.
like very few times have we ever seen that.
Yeah.
And so that was incredible. I remember getting out the pool and going to the couch and just hanging out at the couch with the baby. And, my mom came to me right away with my first meal and just like spoon fed me my oatmeal that I had made. And my midwives were incredible. They just helped us, cut the cord, get everything kind of ready, and just check in with baby, weigh the baby, 8 pounds, 7 ounces, um, big baby. And I did
Perfect
that for
baby.
me, perfect baby for me. And so that was kind of a healing in its own for me. It was like knowing that, yeah, I could do that. And I did do that. And then my midwives, I remember like them coming on each side of me and helping me go down the stairs. They really didn't want me to do that, but they allowed. They took me downstairs. They helped me go to the bathroom for the first time. They set up my bed. They laid down on the pads. They laid me down into bed, tucked me in, and brought me my baby and left. And then came back a day later with flowers. They're incredible. They actually took down the birth pool. They hosed the birth pool water out into my mom and dad's garden. And they didn't leave a trace. They took out all the garbages. One of the midwives, she asked my mom where the washer and dryer was so she could start the towels. My mom was like, oh, no, I got it. She goes, no, I got it. She went and she found the laundry detergent, started the towels, just like they didn't leave a trace. It was just incredible midwifery care. And yeah, I just really love them forever for what they were able to do for me, for my family, for my baby. So yeah, that was that. That was my birth story.
Beautiful. I love that. I loved so many things about your birth story, your father present as well. That's very rare to
Yeah,
hear a woman having her father there, and that you invited so many people into your space. And I love, how you were saying how you could feel everyone, because that is so true. That's why it's so important who we invite into our birth space, right? Because we sense them. And what you said, like we sense what they're bringing, and we only want people bringing safety, grounded energy, positive energy, energy that is believing in you and your journey, really creating safety within your space and love. And it sounds like everyone really brought that for you as well.
did. I'm so grateful for all of them. And I think it would have been a much different experience if they didn't come.
Yeah.
Even if one of them hadn't come, it would have been a different experience. They all did something so important and special for me just by being there.
What a gift for them. Like, what a
Yeah.
gift for your dad to witness his daughter birth her daughter. Like, that is really precious. And yeah, beyond
Yeah.
words.
He says to this day, this is like, that's one of the best and most sacred and spiritual and incredible experiences that he's ever had.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about it every time we talk. we're still not over it.
Love that. And that's the thing. It's one of the things that is so incredible about being a birth worker is that there's no words to witness a woman birthing human being into this world. It is a spiritual experience. It's an absolutely awe-inspiring experience. Such a privilege and an honor and a blessing.
Yeah, it really is. And I love that us women get to do this work and get to talk about this work and let people know what it really is.
Yes, when you claim it as your own.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you had a first-time mama in front of you right now who's about to have her first baby and she really wants to have a natural and empowering birth experience, What advice and pearls of wisdoms would you give to her?
I would say that women don't make the decision to have a home birth because they are stronger or braver than you. They make that decision because they trust the process of birth itself. So just trusting. There's a lot of things that you can do to prep yourself, but at the end of the day, your body's going to do it. So the best thing to do is to just trust and surrender. I would also say that the system needs women to arrive to motherhood broken, so that they can control you. Because if you knew the truth, which every woman deserves to know, you would know your power, and you would arrive to motherhood more fierce and protective than ever. And you would bear testimony to the miracle of what life is, and that we are truly spiritual beings having a human experience, which would make you more awake and more aware than ever.
Yeah.
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 Yes.
Couldn't agree more. I love that so much. Beautiful, powerful words to end this story with. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your birthing wisdom and your beautiful birth story.
You're very welcome. It's been an honor. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. If you love this podcast, then please consider sharing it, leave a review, or make a contribution on our Patreon page. And if you want to connect on social media, then find the podcast on Instagram as The Natural Birth Podcast. Thank you for listening.